Right, so the next concept that we are going to learn is a background processing options that we have in Pega. Okay, so there are several things that we want to do in background behind the scene and not do in the main thread. So Pega is actually a Java based platform, right? So just like we have multi-threading in Java, in Pega too we have multi-thread. Every requester has its own thread. Every work object has its own thread. Okay, so and requester or the people who access the Pega application through the browser, they have dedicated node type. Okay, so in the Pega, in one environment we have more than one node, right? A few nodes we dedicate to online user, all the people who are accessing the application through the online, right? So we want to save the resources for the online users, right? So whatever processing we can do offline, we should not be doing in the online thread. So that's where the background processing comes into the picture. Innate, two most important background processing options are queue processor and job scheduler. Processor and job scheduler. We'll talk about the job scheduler later, but just a brief introduction. So if we have something to be done at a particular schedule, like 3 a.m. in the morning, 4 p.m. in the evening, or every 15 minutes, every 20 minutes, that's where we go with the job scheduler. But that's a topic for another session. Okay. In this topic, we are going to talk about the queue processor. So in the queue processor, right, so the queue processor is something that we demand, that we request, or that we apply for, right? So there will be often a situation when something is done, right? And next step is something that we can do offline, or that not necessarily offline, I mean background, in background, right? So we queue an item to be processed, and that queue processor will always look for the items to be processed and immediately process that as soon as it gets it. Okay, I mean there are different setting in the queue processor. Do we want to delay it for a few minutes, or immediately make available for the queue processor to process that request? That those are the settings that we will talk about. So in general, in the queue processor, the system request for some processing. In the job scheduler, it's scheduled processing. Okay, with that difference in mind, let's talk about, let's try to implement the queue processor. So in our case, we are doing a bank account, saving bank account opening application, right? So you ask the user whether they are existing customer or not. If they are existing, then they provide their cust id. If they are not existing, new, we generate the cust id. I mean, in both cases we have the cust id, and then we are using savable data page to store the customer information. Okay, so once the customer's account opening form is approved, on the work case you have the cust id, right? And in a table, customer table, you have the customer details, right? We are going to, once everything is approved, we are going to run a queue processor later on to create an account. And here in an account we will just have some entry in a table. Okay, it can be anything basically, but in our scope it is going to be another entry in the table. Okay, account table. So first we need to set up a data type to hold the, so let's add a data type, account. This we are going to store into customer layer, organization layer. Okay. So the fields we needed customer id or the cid. Okay, we will need account id or account number. we will need account type, right? We will need balance information, right? So current balance, and now this is something that is decimal. Then current status, the account status, right? Is it active or whatever it is? What else? Uh, so let's start with this much, okay? Limit, right? Limit is also something that is decimal, okay? With this information, let's submit this. So account ID and CID should be primary key, okay? So let's configure the source and we will select account ID and CID as a primary key and then submit. Now we have already seen how to save the data using savable data page and all that. In this demo, we will use activity to save the data. We will just put it there on a page and then save it. Okay, that's not recommended way, but we have been practicing savable data page quite a long time. So now we will use activity for this demo. So this is done. All right, now go to your case type. So there is a shape or step available. Let's say that this is going for approval. Um, and approval will be granted. Let's say there's an admin user, we will select any admin. Usually it's going to be a department or something, but that's okay. For this demo, we will just use manager, right? So this is done, approval is done. And after the approval, in the next stage, account setup, okay, we will do, and this is where we will resolve. So we will queue it. We will queue it for the processing. So background processing is a step there. Run in background. Okay. Select open account. Okay. So there basically the queue processor is two type. There is two type of queue processor: standard and dedicated. So in the standard, Pega provides a, one is PY standard or something like that. Standard queue processor. Okay. PY standard queue processor. I will say here. This is this queue processor. Okay, I'll have to find that name. But anyway, uh, if you select standard, Pega has one queue processor. It will just ask which activity you want to run. Okay, and Pega will run that activity. But if you want something to be done dedicatedly and not be shared with other resources, because that's one queue processor doing a lot of standard processing, we don't want that. So we will have a dedicated queue processor. So we will have to create a new queue processor, not just provide the activity, but we need to create a queue processor. So we will say account setup and let's open it. Okay, so we will create this. new queue processor. So this is where we will do the configuration like enable. Yeah, if it is going to be enable, which node? Like I said, there are different types of node that we include in the cluster. It's usually the background processing. When do we want processing to start? So when you queue something to the queue processor, should it start immediately or should it be delayed by certain amount of time, right? So they will say immediately. How many thread do we want to run on every node? By default it's one, so that is okay. Then you need to basically specify the activity which will run. Okay, so we are going to use our work class, new saving account, and we will create setup account. Now this activity will run in a different thread, separate thread on the background node, right? Not consuming anything for the web user nodes. Account setup. Let's see some of the other setup there. Maximum attempt, if it is not able to process that request somehow, so how many time will it attempt before marking it fail? Delay, initial delay for if you have delayed one, then it is important. Then delay factor, when you are retrying, you want to probably delay by 2 minutes for the first retry, then 4 minutes for the next retry, right? So this is whether to multiply that. So if I say 2 and first initial delay is just 2 minutes, so first retry will happen after 2 minutes. Second retry will happen 2 into 2 4. Third 2 into 4 8, right? 4 into 2, that's what, right? So it will continue like that. um, Alert and health check, if we want to alert if there is a queue process that has been running for 2000 millisecond, right? And these are, I mean, system administrator or health check parameters. All right, let's come back here. So number of thread per node, of course it cannot be 0 1. With that one, let's create this activity account setup. The moment I'll just save it so that I can save everything. Save this and then save this one. Okay, now let's see in the account setup. So when a request is queued, you have the data available with you, the case data. In the new cust ID or whatever field we have, let me just check. Cust ID. We have the cust ID. From there we can take the customer detail. We have the cust ID. We know where customer is. We have a data page to retrieve the details of the customer, right? And then we can put that onto a page and then save it, right? So let's create a page, new account. Class would be cb hyphen data hyphen account, right? Okay, so new page, a page new, create that page. Then if you want to set the name and everything else as well, you can do, but we haven't used any of those other properties have we in the account class that we can take from. Let's add one more property. We will add full name. Okay, account holder's name, just to demo, basically to retrieve the data from other source. And here we need to add that full name is there now. Yeah, okay. So That's all right. This is there. Now we will do another a property set where we will populate the information on this page, right? So property set on this page, and the property CID is going to be our okay. So this is going to be from the work page, primary dot CID. Okay. Next, the full name, account type. This is for the saving bank, so we will just have saving bank account, right? We can hard code it. This is going to be same from this, or you can parameterize this. This is better to parameterize so that you can reuse it for the other account creation too. So let's add account type as a parameter, string required, yes, and we will say account is param dot account type. Then what next? CID is done. Account ID, we can generate a number. Generate ID A. Okay. Okay. Just one. Submit. Then current balance, initially we will give 0. Okay. Limit, let's say 50,000. Status, of course, this is a new account, so active. Full name. Anything else that is left there? No, right? Now, full name is something that we will get from the database. So if you look at the customer, this has this database where we can pass the customer ID and get the details, right? So run C1. Let's see what we get. Yeah, this one C2. Good. So we will use this one. This data page, d underscore customer, and it needs CID. So we can set the CID parameter first. So we will set param dot CID equals to primary dot CID. Same thing. Okay. Now I can leverage that database directly. Okay. Okay. Actually, I need it here. Dot py first name plus space plus dot py last name. Okay. This one is not needed. After doing this, our account is fully ready, right? It has all the element that it needs, and now I can just do a obj save. Save. Save it. Okay, we'll talk about that later. All right, so account is set up now. Now let's try that out. Okay. Before that, I want to just clear some things in the customer data. Last name is not there, I believe. That's okay. Let me just correct this. Okay, whatever. Let's use the same name. Okay. So now if I create a case, and I say existing customer and C02. Okay, that's the customer ID, and I submit this. It will go for approval. We are admin. Let's approve this, and then account setup. Pega will put a request for that queue processor, and the queue processor will do the account setup. Okay, how you can trace it, whether it's working or not, I will tell you. But before that, see, a new record has been inserted. Okay, and that happened. Oh, we did. Oh, sorry, there's one problem there, and that problem is that when we configured it, queue processor, we did not select it again, that it asks us to provide the parameter, and the parameter here is SBA, saving bank account. Okay, right, I will delete this entry and create a new one. And before creating new one, where do you see the queue processor? So you see the queue processor on the admin studio, queue processor, and you can trace it from there too. So the one that we created is account setup. See, it has processed one record in the last 1 hour. Okay, it's running. You can stop it if you want, and you can trace it from here. Got it? So now let's create one more case and we will see here. Okay, so Dev Studio, I'm going to launch the portal so that I can use the admin studio here, and let's create a case, and this time C1 submit will ask for approval, give it approval. Shit, I forgot to trace it. So another case, that's okay. The account number will be different, so primary key will not be a problem. Yes, C2. Oh, before I hit approval, because immediately that processor will pick up. So if you refresh it, it should have already processed 2 row, right? Now, if I want to trace it, I can trace it here. And as soon as I approve, see, this got a detail. Now it has all the data. So if you need to reference the case data manually, so there is a PYQ page. That's exactly the PY work page of your case. Okay, so it has all the data related to the case, like where is the customer ID? Yeah, see, right? And anything else that you have in the case, this will have access to everything. And then it actually uses this data page to get the record. It sets it on the account page and then simply saves it. You can use savable data page to save it as well in the similar way that you have been using. Okay, but just wanted to demo obj save as well. So this is how queue processor works on request. All right, in the next session we will cover job scheduler. Thank you.